What we have here are the Ford Racing Beadlock wheels for the Raptor. These are wheels that you can use as a street wheel with kind of a glamour ring, and then you can take that ring off and put a true beadlock ring on it, and this will allow you to air down the tires and not lose the bead. So to do this, well, we started with the instructions, as you always should. The first thing they say, these wheels as beadlock form are on-road driving is not permitted, for off-road use only. So take that in a grain of salt. That is your responsibility. If you are driving on the road with the beadlock wheels, you shouldn't be. Second, they want us to use the factory OEM tire, which is a BFG all-terrain. Good tire, that's fine, but we're going to put on some Maxxis Bighorns, so we are actually breaking their rules as far as their instructions go. Too bad, that's what we got. We like these tires, they're good tires. The BFGs are good tires too, but this is what we want to put on the truck. So, roll that out of the way. Now, this is the wheel as you get it. You can actually order, from my understanding, you can order the truck with these wheels on it, but they are not beadlocks. They just have this beauty ring on the outside. So, nice wheel, thick, 17 by probably 9 or 10, and has this ring that goes on the outside. So what we did was we mounted a tire up on that wheel. This is the street legal version. Put the tire on the tire machine, struggled with that a little bit because we're not real tire machine guys, and got it on here, aired it up. You could put this tire and wheel combo on your truck, drive it down the road. Ford won't have a problem with it other than the fact that you're not running their BFGs, and we don't have a problem with it because it's all street legal. This, well, it's kind of dirty because of all the lubricant we put on it, but that will work. You can drive your truck with this on the road, no problem. But if you want to go off-road and you want to air down your tires and you don't want to lose the bead, then you want to look at the beadlock version. So what you got to do, first things first, make sure you put a valve stem in the tire. They don't come with a valve stem in. If you forget it, you get the tire mounted, you have to dismount the whole thing to put the valve stem in. Second, take all these little Torx bolts out, pull the beauty ring off. Don't need this anymore. Well, you can save it for later if you want to drive on the street. Third, now you're going to mount the tire on the wheel with the beadlock, bolt it all together, air it up, and then you can drive off-road. So, well, you can drive off-road without beadlocks. Don't think that you need to have beadlocks to go off-road. A lot of people think they need beadlocks for everything. Not necessarily true. It's better for airing down because you won't lose a bead. You can go pretty low on air pressure, where if you go low air pressure on this, you could lose a bead and it could be bad. Then you got to air it back up. You got to seat the bead. It's a lot of work. Not a good deal. Probably off-road, I would feel safe around 12, 13 PSI. I'm sure the Ford guys want you to stay up at factory spec tire pressure, but that's not what we're doing for this off-road truck. We have the stock tires and wheels that are on the truck. They can go off-road, on-road, just fine. So enough of all that. Let's mount a tire on a beadlock. Now, the way the instructions say, Ford wants you to put the tire on the ground, the wheel on the ground, and you want some lubrication. There's special stuff that they recommend. Let me see if I can find it here. We recommend Myers number 8 MTS Euro Paste or equivalent. I recommend soapy water in a spray bottle. Spray that on the tire. I'm not sure what this stuff is. I like to use like Simple Green and some water in a spray bottle. It works just fine for me. Now, Ford says put the wheel on the ground and then wrestle the tire on top of it. You're actually going to be mounting the wheel in through the back of the tire. I have found it easier for me to put the tire on the ground and put the wheel in from the back. So you kind of wrestle this in here. It doesn't take a lot of tools, but tire iron is a good tool to have because it makes it a little bit easier to get it on. Now, here's the thing about a tire iron. This is not a pry bar. Pry bars have sharp edges. They scratch aluminum wheels. They can gouge tires. Tire irons have nice sort of rounded ends, but they're still strong enough that you can pry against them. Here's the other thing. When you pry up against here, don't put your thumb right here. Because when it comes through and it pops past and your thumb's right there, it's going to hurt. So there you go. Tire on the wheel. Here's the next thing. I've done a lot of beadlocks, so I have a way that I like to do it. Everybody's a little bit different, but this is what works for me. There's kind of a bunch of stuff going on here. Get your basic 5-gallon bucket. Walmart. Thanks, Walmart, for the sponsorship of this bucket. Now you have a place to work. Get yourself a little buggy. This one kind of looks like it's made by John Deere. I'm not exactly sure. It's not really the point. It's a buggy that you can sit and work on your beadlock. Get your soapy water, spray it all around here. Now the way this is going to work is the beadlock ring, this nice thick aluminum ring for off-road use only for the 10th time, will clamp the outer bead of the tire to the outside of the wheel. Let me show you something here. This is a normal wheel. I mean, this is the same wheel, but when you're on the street version like we did over there, your tire bead will sit out here. When you do the beadlock version, the tire bead sits out here, and then this ring bolts on, and it clamps the tire bead there. This is where the street version goes. This is where the off-road version goes. So just by moving the bead from here to here and clamping it, that is where it'll hold the bead, and that's where when you air down, this bead won't pop out. If you air down here, the bead can have a tendency to come out, or more importantly, come in, and you'll lose your bead. This is actually pretty brilliant because there's a lot of companies that make wheels, and there's a lot of companies that make beadlocks. The Ford Racing is the first ones that have said, let's just make one wheel that does both. Like, duh, why didn't I think of that? I'd be a millionaire by now. Instead, I've got a YouTube video show and you're watching it. All right, so more importantly, enough about that, enough about me not being a millionaire. We are going to now put this beadlock ring on this tire. There's one notch in the ring that goes at your valve stem. So you're going to line that up with the valve stem, and then as per the Ford Racing instructions, you get this bag of bolts and you take out 4. You're going to need a 13mm socket and a little ratchet, and you're going to get 4 bolts started. Now you want them at opposite corners. 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock, however you want to figure it out. So stick them in here and turn them in by hand. Make sure they're straight, make sure they're going in, not cross-threaded. Don't grab your impact and run all 3 of these down to 600 foot-pounds. You'll strip out the threads and your nice new wheels won't be any good. So nice and easy by hand. A lot of people will put anti-seize on the bolts. It's not a bad idea. More importantly, you just need to get everything lined up. Because if the ring is kind of cockeyed a little bit or not square and it goes in crooked, it can pinch the bead and it's a big mess. All right, so you get all of these started. You're not cranking them down, you're just kind of hand tight. You roll them in until they touch, and then you just go a little bit further. So do a little bit of this, make sure they're tight, a little bit further. Wha-bam. Okay, so they're all in, now just go around and make sure they're all just a little bit tight. Now here's the other thing. Ford has specific instructions in here. On page, I don't know, 8, page 8. There's numbers for every single bolt. They're not numbers on the ring, but basically you don't want to just go and tighten them all the way around like this. You want to jump across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you're crisscrossing, so it's pulling it down evenly. In addition to that, you don't want to just run them tight the full time. You want to go 11 foot-pounds, 28 or 25 foot-pounds, 47 foot-pounds, and then retorque them at 47 foot-pounds. So get a torque wrench. This is about the most basic torque wrench you can buy. This is probably a Craftsman, and there's a lot of other really nice ones you can buy. There's digital ones with little clickers. This one is pretty simple. I like to just get them all tight, not torque tight, but just also they're level. And you want to look down in here at this gap, make sure the gap is even all the way around. And then you start torquing them. You crisscross, crisscross, crisscross all over the place, back, 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 back. And it slowly pulls it down. You do them all to their spec that are in their instructions, pulls it all down, and then we're going to air it up. So I'm going to start torquing this down. This is the longest part of the process. And once we get that done, we'll check back in and we'll start airing them up. All right. Okay, so we are doing the final torque on all of these, which, as per Ford's instructions, 47.9 foot-pounds. I mean, I'm sure if you get to 48, it's not going to kill anything, but 47.9 is what they're looking for. So we come in here and we torque them all. There you go. So we've gone around, we've crisscrossed, we've done it all the way they want it. It's all set. Now we're going to put air in it. Take your air hose, your valve stem. Now what it's going to do is, as this fills with air, the back of the tire is going to slide backwards. And there's this little tiny safety bead right here. And the tire's going to go and go and go, and then it's going to go pop. And when it pops, that means it's beaded. That means the bead has seated around this safety bead right here. Now, when we do it, a lot of times it'll pop. Sometimes it'll just really slowly go and go and go. They don't want you to go above 44 PSI on this wheel and tire combo. Do not exceed 44 PSI. The rear bead will pop over the inboard bead hump while inflating. So I'm going to set this on here. We're going to keep our tire gauge handy. There you can see it's already moving. There you go. So that's the pop. So let's see, what did we go to get that? So we only needed 9 PSI to pop that bead on. Sometimes you'll have to go all the way to 40 depending on the tires that you're running. Some of them have a little bit tighter bead. It takes a little bit more pressure to pop it over. Other ones have a little bit looser bead. It's got 24 bolts. It's actually pinching this bead. You can air down, and it'll allow you to when you air down, the tire can bulge out a little bit more, helps you get a better grip off-road. And now you have a better off-road wheel. Same wheel, but by adding this ring and these 24 bolts, it changes it, allows you to air down more, get more traction off-road.